Welcome to Education Today, the Guest Teacher Edition. I'm your host, Solanke. After 15 years as a secondary English teacher, I stepped away from the classroom and took a 1-year hiatus. Now I'm back in a completely new capacity. I'm a substitute teacher, and I get to experience teaching all grade levels and subjects from kindergarten to 12th grade in a brand new school district. Join me as I document my journey seeing education through a brand new lens with a different angle. Welcome back to Guest Teacher, the Substitute Teacher Chronicles, featuring Solanke, licensed teacher. Does anyone remember that TV show from the 90s? Nick Freno, licensed teacher. I think it was on the WB or something. It was a comedy. Yeah. So what happened this week in my substitute journey? Did you know that there is an app called Where's My Bus that the kids check to see where their school bus is? And when the kid was telling me this at first, I thought it was like a county app. But no, it's just an app. It tells them where their bus is. This kid was like, oh, my bus is almost here now. I was like, how do you know that? And he showed me the app and I was like, wow. You guys have things that we couldn't even have dreamed of. I mean, I grew up in a country where we don't have school buses anyway, but public transportation, or you walk. Most people just walk. Public transportation, or your parents drop you off, I guess. But wow, there's an app for that. This week I was at a middle school where I saw some business students. And I don't mean students in a business class. I mean students who are conducting business on school campus in a middle school. They are entrepreneurs. Definitely not allowed. However, I will support the entrepreneurs. One guy had his Halloween candy still. This is what, a week after Halloween. And he was very smart. He was selling it. He was trying to sell them 3 for $1, 3 pieces for $1. I'm talking about little pieces of candy, not full size candy bars. And I was like, I'll give you $1 for 4 pieces, like 25 cents each. That's what they're worth. But he didn't actually have everything I wanted, so I think I just grabbed a couple of pieces and give him 75 cents for 3 or something like that. But I appreciated his entrepreneurial skills. Last week I was at a school, people were just giving candy away, but this kid is smart. I remember teachers trying to sell pencils, and they would get in trouble and get told to stop. I don't know why we couldn't sell a pencil for 25 cents. I don't know why. Give me my pencil back and I'll give you 25 cents back at the end of class. Sounds like a perfect deal to me, since I'm the one buying the pencils, But anyway, I guess there's there's kids who couldn't afford it. There was another girl. She was very quiet. And then towards the end of the class, she said, "Can I show you my business?" I was like, "Excuse me, what?" This is everybody's leaving. The bell's rung. And then she opens this, I don't know what to call it, like a trifold wallet thing, and they contain these really colorful, cute little things, and I recognize them as the things that go on Crocs shoes. I don't know what they're called. Are they called gibbets or something? I don't know, but there's a name for them, and she told me the name. But it's the things that go on Crocs, and she was selling those. But she opened the trifold thing in such a way so that my eye would go towards the ones at the top. I thought, smart girl. The ones at the top were all like Black Girls Rock, Black Girl Power, Black Lives Matter, really cool stuff. I couldn't decide. Obviously I wasn't gonna like Cashapp her. I had to give her the cash that I have, and I didn't have much. Remember, I bought some candy also. I don't really carry much cash on me. But I bought 2. I bought one that was a black woman in a graduation gown, and a purple graduation gown, that I thought was a really powerful message, and I loved that one. And then the other one I bought said, I don't even remember. I have to look at my purse. It either said Black Lives Matter or it said Black Girls Rock. But I think it might have said Black Lives Matter. And it was done in a nice way. It was pretty. No idea what I'm going to do with them, because I asked her, does this back thing come off? Like a pin? She said, no, it doesn't come off. I guess with the Crocs, you just squeeze it in. So she said, you could give it to somebody who has Crocs. And she was trying to sell me. Oh no, at first when I said I don't really wear Crocs, but then when she was showing me the ones with for like that somebody like me, a black woman would like, she was saying, "Well, I also have these bracelets. You could put them on these bracelets. You're a good businesswoman. I also have these bracelets, and you can put them on the bracelet." And I said, "Yeah, it's not really something I would wear, but you could give it to somebody else who would wear it." Smart businesswoman. So I bought not one but two. I mean, she was only selling them for $1, but they were beautiful. They were really beautiful. No idea what I'm going to do with them. Maybe I'll give them to somebody. I wish I could find a way to wear them as a pin. I have a pin that I wear on my sweater. It's Princess Tiana. My son gave it to me because he loves Disney, and I always wear it on my a black sweater that I have. Goes in the wash machine in the dryer, and it's fine. It's been there for years. Every time I wear that black sweater, Princess Tiana goes with me as the first black Disney princess. Although she was only princess in the movie for a small fraction of the time, she was a frog for most of the time. But I digress. That's a different story for another day. But I was impressed with these entrepreneurs in middle school. Um, I think it takes some guts to actually go to a substitute teacher and ask them to buy stuff when you probably aren't really allowed to sell stuff. But I don't know. I'm sure teachers do buy off her. I thought that was really bold, and I liked that. I liked her spirit. Maybe they'll be our future business people. Who knows? You know, one problem that I have seen in elementary school, obviously, but also in middle school, and yesterday in high school, is that kids do not know how to tell time on an analog clock. So this comes up when either a kid will say to me, "How much time do we have left of class?" And I'll point to the clock. "Miss, I can't tell the time on that." I was like, "What are you talking about? Why?" In elementary school, I get it. They're still learning, some of them. Middle school and high school. High school yesterday told me when they were doing that in school, I wasn't there. I missed it. I missed that lesson, and I got behind and never got caught up. When he said that, I felt compassion because that's what happened to me in math. I remember having the flu and being out of school for a week. And when I came back, they had moved on to a completely different section of math. And I feel like I never got caught up on math, you know. But obviously, because of, technology the way it is, in many situations, kids don't need to use an analog clock. But I think it's still a good skill to have, just like fastening your shoelaces in the world where everybody's wearing Crocs. And I noticed a lot of teachers, I mean, the analog clock is there on the wall in every classroom, but I noticed a lot of teachers also have a small digital clock, which I think is a good thing to have, but it's probably handicapping the kids. It's like, so my question is like, is it still being taught? Because it does still need to be taught. And it's shocking to me how many kids in middle school and high school, when they ask either how much time is left of class, or they say, "Can I use the restroom?" Sure, sign out. And then there's always a thing that says timeout, and they're like, "What time is it?" And you point at the clock. Yes, I can't tell. What do you mean? Oh my goodness, are we still teaching this? Because if we're not, we need to. We need to teach the analog clock and 24-hour clock too, right? Like the boy in high school yesterday who said he didn't know. He said that he was learning. He said his parents were teaching him. I was like, thank goodness. And I was like, you know what? You're in high school. Go to YouTube. Just go to YouTube. I know there's a video for that. There's a video for everything. But yeah, kids can no longer tell analog clock. Do we still need it going forward with our technology, with our smartwatches and everything's digital and our laptops and our phones with the time? Do we still need it? What do you guys think? So this was an interesting week. I encountered a staff member at a middle school who I was able to identify by her name and something that she had on her, that she was of Palestinian descent. And this has been recorded. We are in the middle of November, where the Israeli-Palestinian war is full on, and the casualties of Palestinians has surpassed now 10,000, including thousands of children. And a humanitarian disaster is unfolding before our eyes as we just sit and watch, eating our popcorn. It's just a tragedy. It's so sad. It's heartbreaking, especially those children. Heartbreaking. civilians. So I was able to identify that she was Palestinian, and I spoke to her a little, and I just saw this sadness about the situation. Now, she said she currently didn't have any family members there, although she was from there and her family was from there. There was a sense of sadness in her, but not only sadness, but like a sense of like, this conversation needs to be stifled. We have to talk quietly. And also, like, I'm so relieved that somebody actually acknowledged me, acknowledged my people, acknowledged the pain we're going through, because I feel like, and I'm speaking like on her behalf now, what I sense from her, I feel like I can't speak about this. My heart is breaking. My family's heart is breaking. What we're seeing on TV is breaking our hearts every day. And yet, in this environment, in this work environment, I feel as though I can't speak about it to my coworkers for fear of being labeled anti-Semitic or pro-terrorist. But her people are dying and she's watching it. And she's supposed to celebrate that? No. And that reminded me of, so there's this app called Nextdoor where people who live in your neighborhood post things. Somebody had posted the strangest thing about how he had gone to a restaurant in this part of Tampa Bay or whatever. And in the restaurant, they were showing a screen, and on the screen, different images popping up. And at one point, an image popped up, which this man in his mind seemed to have equated with Russia. Although many people in the thread pointed out to him that that's not the correct symbol for communist Russia. The sickle and something else. He said, that's not it. This is what it is. That, what you saw, that's not it. But anyway, he was determined that that little image that popped on the screen for a few seconds was Russia, and he was never going to that restaurant again. It was like a collage of different images. It was just on the screen with music or whatever. And many people on the thread agreed with him. Don't go back there again. And I was like, what's happening? Other people on the thread were confused at me, like, excuse me, what? You're not going back to the image because a symbol appeared on the screen that looked like something from communist Russia, from like back in the day, from like Stalin's day. I'm so confused. But people were like saying, yeah, don't go back there. That's crazy. And I was like, and it made me think about a Russian student that I had. I've actually been in a school a few times where there's a Russian girl who doesn't speak much English, and I'm trying to use my translator to speak to her. I was like, I wish my parents were still alive because they were fluent in Russian. I was thinking about my Russian student that I had. I had him in ninth grade. And he moved out of the ESOL program to my regular ninth grade English class. Worked very hard, did well. And then I had him again as a junior for AP English language. And that was the COVID year. I remember that he would always say, what means this, miss? This thing you said, what means this? About like idioms. There was one particular idiom that just threw him for a loop, and he said, what means this? I'm trying to remember what it was now. What was it I said? There you go. There you go. If I'm saying something and then I'm asking a student a question, the student says, yeah, because A, B, and C. Aha. I was like, there you go. I mean, like, yeah, you got it now. He didn't. And he was like, what means this? There you go. What means this? I thought that was so cute. I have to check myself with my idioms and have to explain them to him. You know, what means this? There you go. He didn't, that stumped him. I had him again as a junior. And I remember one of the sweetest moments was when COVID hit and we went online, and he popped into a private session on Zoom, like the kids. I met with a whole group, and then I was like, and if anybody wants to come and talk to me, because the AP English exam was coming. Now, this is a kid who was learning English, but is challenging himself with AP English language. That's just amazing to me. So he had extra questions, so he popped on. And I told him that my parents spoke Russian. My mother was still alive at that time, and she was living with me. And I was like, Mom, come and speak to my student. He speaks Russian. So they started having this whole conversation in Russian. Now, my mom's Russian is rusty. She hasn't been there since the early 70s. When did she leave? 1974. Yes, is when she left. But she still knows Russian. It was a little rusty. The boy was laughing at that it was a little rusty. They had this full-on conversation in Russian over Zoom. And I just thought that was the coolest thing. And I remember in ninth grade, when we were doing Romeo and Juliet, and he did a scene in Romeo and Juliet in Russian, and like when we were acting it out. So cool, so cool. But I was thinking about that post on the Nextdoor app and how there was that sense of animosity towards Russians because of the Russian-Ukraine war. Um, and I was thinking about that student and how that would be now. So we're all going to decide that anybody in this country who's Russian is an enemy because of the Russian war. Russian Americans are enemies. Are we going to put them in internment camps? As would teachers who had the same mindset as that man who made that post, would he, if he were a teacher, would he have um, marginalized that student somehow, the Russian student? Would he have taken offense to his very presence? Like how do you navigate that if you have so much um, hatred in your heart towards a group of people for whatever reason? How do you navigate that as a teacher in the classroom when you have those students? Yesterday, I was at a high school where there was a large Middle Eastern population. And I know that because throughout the day, I saw several students who I could identify as Palestinian. And I know Palestine is not the only place in the Middle East, because they were wearing, and I forget the name of it, the black and white shawl. I forgot the name of it, but they were wearing that. And I think they were wearing that in solidarity. So I think that's pretty cool. They're wearing that in solidarity. And I know that the teacher I'd spoken to earlier in the week, obviously she wouldn't have been able to do that. That would have been a problem for her job. The way things, the attitudes of people, the way things are in this country and the attitudes of people. But the students have a voice. So the same way that students are allowed to wear a crucifix, a Star of David, is the same way that the students are allowed to wear freely a necklace that has like the Islamic symbol, just like a crescent moon, and all the map of, like a necklace with a map of Palestine. But then they were wearing these shawls too. I had a conversation with one of these boys, and he told me that he has family in Gaza right now. And when I asked him, have you heard from them and they're okay? He said, as of now. And the way he said it, it's almost like he's saying, yeah, we've heard from them. We know that they're okay as of now. However, in the future, perhaps they won't be okay. And I was like, these were juniors in high school. And I was just thinking, this is a horrible burden for juniors to carry, knowing that your family is in the Gaza Strip and could be killed at any moment. And you still have to go to school, maybe have a part-time job and do all your schoolwork and act as a normal person. You can't act crazy and, you stay on top of your grades. But how heavy is that to walk around with as a junior? I spoke to another girl who also had the scarf on, and she said she had family in Gaza and West Bank, and they hadn't heard from all of them. It's such a heavy thing for a 17-year-old to carry around, 16, 17-year-old to carry around. My heart really went out to those students. And I really hope they have teachers who are compassionate towards them and towards the situation in their homeland, and that, or in some cases in their parents' homeland. I really hope that they have teachers who are compassionate. And I would hope that if a teacher has a student from Russia, that they would show the same compassion and not just say, well, I've decided that I'm going to be Team Ukraine, so I'm going to have animosity in my heart towards you as a student. Therefore, I don't like Putin, so therefore I don't like you. Because I've seen teachers behave like that. So my prayer is that these students all over the country who have family members in places like Palestine or Russia, Ukraine even, right? Israelis, that they would have teachers who are compassionate towards, even though they're not themselves and not in the war zones going through it, that they would be compassionate to the weight that you carry around, knowing that you have family members, even if it's distant family members, or just seeing your people suffering or struggling, or being in a situation where there's a conflict going on and you know that your side, your country, your people are seen as the aggressors, are seen as the quote unquote bad guys. And therefore, when a conversation comes up in class, either a whole group or with other students, you are quiet because you know that they're going to accuse you of being a terrorist if you speak up for your people, or they're going to say that you're a communist if you speak up. So for some people who are shyer and more internal, they're not going to argue. They're not going to. Some people are bold and they'll say, no, this is the situation. You need to do your research, blah, blah, blah. But some students won't say anything for fear of getting shut down. Yeah, I just pray that their teachers would have compassion. It's a tough thing for a child, a teenager to carry. And I would hope that the teachers wouldn't have teachers, social studies teachers probably, or English teachers who wouldn't make a lesson out of it. Let's talk about the Russian-Ukrainian conflict. Let's talk about these bad guys in Russia. How embarrassed would you be as a student? You just like clam up at that point. Oh my God, what's happening? If you were like of Russian descent, or you just came from, you know what I mean? Oh, where is this going? It reminds me of during apartheid, when my geography teacher wanted to teach us about apartheid by apartheiding the classroom, by segregating the classroom as a lesson. So uncomfortable. As the only Black person in the class, so uncomfortable. I hope and I pray that those students have teachers who are compassionate to what they're going through, regardless of which side they're on during these conflicts. And hopefully these conflicts will end soon. Because the loss of life, especially in Palestine right now, is making me lose sleep. It's heartbreaking. I signed up for a job this week and I thought it was a teaching job. I thought it said reading. I thought I was going to be in a classroom, in a high school, with students who were in a reading class. When I got there, it was it was like an ESE co-teacher job, like special ed co-teacher almost. Going into Cambridge ACE general paper classes. That's what I was in all day, being taught to juniors in this county. I got to see two different people teaching the same thing. What was the play they were studying? A Raisin in the Sun. Yes. Last week I got to see Lord of the Flies, 3 different teachers, senior English regular. This week, I got the opportunity to be in the classroom with 2 different teachers, young teachers. I think one was a second year, maybe a third year, and the other one, he seemed pretty newish, maybe a few years in. But I think my biggest takeaway from these 2 newish teachers who were trying to find their footing and who kind of struggled a bit with classroom management is like, if you're a newish teacher and you were young, because these people were young, they look like just a few years out of college, a year or 2 out of college, you have to decide, am I my student's friend or am I my student's teacher? I know there's a fine line, because as a teacher, even as an older teacher, I don't look like I'm 23. Yes, you want to have a good relationship with your students, have camaraderie. I'm not saying I'm not saying there shouldn't be laughter in the classroom. You want to, have some laughs, but there has to be a boundary somewhere so they know that you are the teacher and they are the students, they are the teenagers. And with that boundary doesn't exist and it's shifting, it's not a good thing in the classroom. Behavior problems are coming from there when they're not taking you seriously, because you're trying to be too cool and trying to be one of them and just goofing off. And I know I will say it was also a Friday, but the time I got to the second batch of the male teachers classes, it was Friday afternoon. The different feel from the women's, which is Friday morning, but still Friday. Friday is Friday, But yeah, and I would say more so with the male, there's that lack of a boundary in some cases of who's the teacher and who's the kid, and are we friends or am I an adult and you're the kid in the room? Because if I'm the adult and you're the student, then you cannot speak to me a certain way. There's some boundaries you cannot cross. And the other thing, and again, this is more with the male than with the female, because even though she was just a year 2 teacher, she actually did a better job, and her classes were just as challenging as his. And that is, you have to be consistent with your policies. You cannot yell at one kid for doing something and yet 5 others are doing it. And the result would be you will get called out. And that is exactly what happened. This teacher yelled at a kid for doing something out of nowhere. I was startled. Another kid started yelling back at the teacher saying, how are you going to call him out and threaten to write this person up when this person's doing it? He's pointing around the room. He's doing it. She's doing it. He's doing it. And it's just like, I was in 3 classes with this teacher and it's like inconsistent. It's like, whatever your policy, it has to be your policy. It can't just be your policy for certain students. And then other students, you see it, but you're not seeing anything, And yeah, it's just a classroom management disaster. And then the kids will not take you seriously. And then how embarrassing is that for a kid to call you out like that? Even though you can now say the kid was disrespectful, get out of my classroom, don't talk to me that. But the kid is actually right. He was right. You were inconsistent. And then you just like, when you get frustrated because people aren't like doing what they're supposed to do, and you just start yelling at one, but you've ignored 5 others doing it. And then the other thing, and this applies to both of them, is that if the county has a policy that says no cell phones, and the school has a policy that says no cell phone, and there are signs up saying no cell phones, why are you allowing cell phones? It is a disaster. You are making it harder for the other teachers who are keeping to that. Like, why would you even have the cell phone holder with the pockets on the wall? I'm in your class for 3 periods and you chastised one student and made her put it in the holder. But every other kid was using cell phones. And you're like, okay, that's 3 strikes, put it in there. Everyone was using them. So again, it goes back to consistency, but also consistency about if that's the school's policy, then that's the school's policy. For you to now change it, you have to really be on top of it. And if you're not on top of it, it's a classroom management disaster. So, and I hate to be critical of teachers. I really do. I hate it because I know how hard it is of teaching, how hard it is to be a teacher. I've been a teacher now for 16 years because I count this experience of substitute teaching as part of my experience of teaching. It's just a different type of teaching with less pay, but less stress. What I saw was like most of the classroom management issues I saw in this class were caused by this teacher being inconsistent, trying to be friends with a student, and just having a wishy-washy, lax, and again, inconsistent policy with cell phones. And then even the female teacher in the morning, the issue with cell phones. So I'm walking around the room. I'm trying to get kids back on task. Because there's no policy, because last week I was in a high school classroom where that teacher was like, she had a cell phone holder and it was full almost. She looked up at one point, she said, I'm looking to see whose phone's not there. And a kid quickly whipped out his phone and said, I'm so sorry. I forgot to put it there. And he puts it in there and all the phones are in there. And I saw that in like 2 classes. And then the afternoon I went and I saw it, didn't see it happen in the other classes. The same thing last week is the same thing from this week where there wasn't that consistent cell phone policy. The kids were on their phones. The teacher doesn't always see it, but as you're walking around, you see it. They're on their phone. You're talking. You think they're taking part in discussion. You think they're doing their assignments. They're actually playing a game. They were playing it. One kid was watching the football from last night. Some of them were playing games. Some of them were on TikTok. One kid was using his phone for AI to do the assignment. And I said, whoa, what are you doing? He was like, everyone else does it. Why can't I do it? He was using his phone. I don't know what app it was. I don't know if it was ChatGPT or whatever, but he was using his phone, using AI to do the assignment. Yeah, at least he was doing his work, unlike the others who were watching football or whatever. But in classrooms where teachers are consistent with that and have the policy and stick to the district and the school's policy, you don't see that. You don't see kids sneaking on their phone. You'll only see it like towards the end of class, perhaps. And what complicates this matter is the fact that, especially since COVID, so much of what we do is online. So if you are posting the assignment on Canvas, or I don't know what other people use, Blackboard, Google Classroom, and the kids are accessing it there and they're uploading it when they finish, even if these kids were handwriting these assignments for English general paper. But when they finish, they have to take out their phones and take a picture of it and upload it to Canvas. And then also if they're like trying to get caught up on other assignments, they might have to go to Canvas to look at what the assignments are. So that just complicates everything. The fact that, well, you have to use your phones for some things. And in this county, what I've noticed is pretty much every classroom I've been to has access to laptops one-on-one for the students. So, and also a lot of teachers will say, no, use the laptops. And that eliminates some of that. But kids can open a second tab. But yeah, if this, it's just frustrating to me that if the district has a policy and the school has a policy, but then there's teachers who are not following it, and the result is classroom management issues because kids are not paying attention. They're not fully there. They're half there. They're half on their phones. But with so much educational technology being online, what is the solution? What do we do going forward? Let me know what you think. Teachers' lounges are very interesting. They're very interesting places. They can feel so warm and cozy. They can feel like almost like prison-like. And I think I've only been in one that had windows and a wall of windows, and it was so nice. Even though the windows show you the kids in recess, but still, there were trees and there was sunlight coming in. Most of them are internal and they're dark and cavernous. Not necessarily dark, but they just feel cavernous because there's no windows. However, I was in one this week that had recliners. Oh my goodness. And it had a sofa and 2 recliners. And I was like, okay, if I had this in this last school I taught in, that sofa especially, I would have been late to class so many times because I would have taken a snooze. I would have taken a snooze during lunch or during my conference periods some days and just, I guess the bell would have woken me up. But yeah, that would have been my spot. But I enjoyed my time during this teacher's conference period in that recliner. Oh my goodness, it was so comfortable. It was so cozy. What a nice spot for teachers. Kudos to the administration or whoever provided. And it's not even like, let's go find some old beat up sofa and recliners for the teacher lounges. Like, these are nice. I wouldn't mind having these in my house. These are really nice. It was so comfy. I had a nice rest. So kudos to the admin of that school for making the teacher lounge feel cozy, warm, inviting, a respite from the long, weary days of teaching. So that's all I got for you for this week on Guest Teacher, the Substitute Teacher Chronicle. Have a great week, everyone. Bye. Well, thank you for listening to this episode of Education Today. We'll be back next time with more current topics on all things education. In the meantime, you can email any questions or comments you have about the show to edtodaypodcast@gmail.com. If you enjoy the show, please hit the subscribe button and consider leaving a review on whichever platform you are listening. We are listener supported, so if you are able to give a one-time or monthly donation, check out the show notes for ways in which you can give. Check out my blog for more about my experiences in education at medium.com/@SOKO. That's medium.com/@SOHKOR. You can also find me on Instagram at SOKO_rights. That's at SOHKOR_rights. See you next time, and thank you again for listening.